Good day, folks. I suppose I should count myself lucky that we're kind of getting through the boring overclocks. Not first, getting a decent mix, but we're still getting through some of the boring ones because this. Welcome back to Overclock Showcase. Welcome to what's probably going to be the most boring episode of the entire series. Because we're talking about Eraser. Now, what is Eraser? And I have to ask that question because it sounds simple, and it will be simple when you see how trivial of an overclock it is. But the point is, this is probably an overclock that you do not ever think about. This is a clean for the smart rifle. It gives you more locks that you can acquire. I believe the number is 4 more locks. Yep, 4 more locks with an expanded magazine capacity. I don't know if it's actually a percentage of locks. Hold on, it is. So it's what is that? Do some quick maths. Like 30. It's like a 33% more locks or something. I think that's correct. Or it's like 20. Whatever. Point is, gives you more locks, and it also gives you more magazine capacity. And so when I was given this overclock last week by the wheel of fate, I wasn't exactly over the moon about it. The smart rifle is a weapon that I do not feel too fondly about. It's probably my least favorite engineer weapon in the game, I would say. Pretty confidently. Yeah, I think so. I think I do like the PGL more than the smart rifle. And even when I do use it, it usually comes down to a limited number of overclocks. I will say it's gotten better over time because I've always been a bit of a executioner and seeker rounds user. I think seeker round is quite good. Not too long ago, I finally came around to explosive chemical rounds. It's pretty damn strong, and I used to think that was really limited to the breach cutter, but that's definitely not the case. Explosive chemical rounds is definitely viable with a lot of different builds. And of course, the new Smart Trigger OS being a surprisingly really strong overclock, actually. I really like Smart Trigger. What I don't like is Neuralasso still terrible. Really not looking forward to that episode. Arm Break module, which is the most filler thing I've ever seen in anything, and then Eraser, which is just mid because I think base Smart Rifle is not particularly great, and it's really interchangeable from base Smart Rifle. So definitely the approach that I took to this was trying pretty hard to make it so Eraser wasn't just base Smart Rifle. Trying to actually take advantage of what Eraser is doing. And that came in the form of 2 sort of core ideas. And the core ideas were actually using the Smart Rifle like a Smart Rifle properly, which is to say getting lots of locks and lots of enemies and killing lots of enemies at once. That's what this build is. And then the other kind of thing, which is basically taking the fact that Eraser gives you a bit more ammo, and that being the focal point of the build. The fact that it gives us 12 more magazine size, therefore 12 more maximum bullets, and also something that magazine capacity barely leans into, which is hip firing, because you technically have more bullets to hip fire with. It's really, really loose logic, but hip firing still isn't really a thing with the smart rifle in any form. No overclock has come really close to leaning towards it. I think Eraser is the only thing that has any kind of like indication that it's the only thing where it adds something that technically helps hip fire. It helps the rest of the smart rifle as well. It helps the lock-on mechanic, but having a magazine capacity technically allows for you to shoot more with hip fire. No other overclock does anything that can even be twisted into contributing to hip fire builds at all, and that's the difference, or the core of it, I suppose. Neuralasso could if the effect actually lasted beyond locking on. Anyway, so the first build we're going to be covering is the one where it's very much so focused on getting lots of locks, sort of like Smart Pistol from Titanfall, which always makes me question why they pivoted from the rocket rifle to the smart rifle, because I don't think anyone's ever really liked smart weapons in games. They always seem cool in concept, but then they come off as really cheap. Luckily, in a PvP game, a PvE game, sorry, it's hard for things to be overpowered in that sense, and the smart rifle is definitely not overpowered. It's actually the complete opposite. I still think it's underpowered. I still think it needs a base ammo or damage buff. I think ammo is probably the one. I think. Anyway, so how do we build for that? First of all, we take as much ammo as possible. This one really is the ammo one, so we actually have 300 rounds in total, which is actually a sort of nice upgrade from whatever a base smart rifle would be, which would be like 216. So it's quite nice. Tier 2, we take CCD array add-on, which is what I would never normally take. I'm a macro lens enjoyer. almost 100% of the time. I think the only time I ever didn't use macro lens was with Smart Trigger when I wanted to make a crowd clearing build with that. Anyway, so we take a wider angle basically. Zoom lens would be fine as well, but this doesn't actually reduce our range in any way. It's the base range, which is not 50, not 35. It's quite short, but for the purposes of what we're using a smart rifle for, I do think it's the best one, especially because it has to hold locks at wider angles. We want to be locking onto as many enemies as possible in our given range, so it kind of just makes sense. Tier 3, super blow through rounds just aids a little bit more crowd clearing. I still find blow through a little bit strange when it comes to the smart rifle, but what it does do, first of all, it does work in the context of locking onto enemies. I do think it's actually originally designed to help you hit enemies that are behind other enemies that you've already locked onto. So you locked onto something, but while you're still picking up more targets, something's come in the way, so you can actually hit both of those enemies. But what Blowthrough also has built into it is the fact that it works with hip fire at all, so there's another thing there. Tier 4, this was originally aperture extension, and I wanted to use aperture extension because I wanted to have as many locks as possible. Unfortunately, it's just bad. It's a simple fact of the matter. Shutter speed sensor is still reign supreme. You won't be killing enemies as many enemies at once, but you will be killing enemies still. You won't be killing as many enemies per burst, but you will be killing enemies more quickly because with less locks to get, and we get them faster, which allows us to get unstable lock mechanism faster because it's built around basically getting up to full locks with lots of locks, unlike something like Smart Trigger or Executioner, where the amount of locks we need to acquire is extremely small, allowing us to activate unstable lock mechanism extremely easily. In this case, it is a bit harder, but every bullet benefits from this, which is why I really wanted to use aperture extension, because that's 4 bullets. Not 4 bullets, 24 bullets, all with this damage bonus. Fortunately, I kind of had to pivot towards using shutter speed sensor, which is fine. It's kind of what I'm more used to anyway. And the accompaniment to this is actually a very strangely built breach cutter. It's kind of built for damage and sort of, I don't know, cleave functionality, which I kind of invented for this. And what cleaving is, in my opinion, is basically being good at killing anything that isn't good at killing anything that doesn't die in one shot normally. So heavier targets and things like guards and that. Basically, this is a breach cutter that we're not going to be using against groups of grunts. That's what the smart rifle. The smart rifle in this build is for grunts, swarmers, and very weak HVTs like web splitters. And low tier Mac Terror as well. The breach cutter is for anything above that. And then when it comes to something really tanky, we will combine the two of them a little bit. Also, I'm using proximity mines. I don't know why. I just really wanted to use them. So it's kind of a strange build where they both sort of can do both things. So we've got a swarm clear and HVT clearer, but we've also got a heavy swarm clear and heavy target killer. So there is a kind of delineation of functionality here. The roles are, in my opinion, somewhat clear. However, and we'll get into this when I actually start playing, this build's not great, and that's because the racer isn't great, because the smart rifle isn't great, and that's why this is not going to be a great episode, because I'm doing the best I can. I'm still going to be playing on Hazard 5. I'm going to be playing Hazard 5 Plus, actually. You can see I've actually got play vulnerability on. That's because this build does not respond well to lots of enemies. I didn't want to push the envelope of the amount of enemies that we'd be encountering, so I thought I still need to add a bit of difficulty, so I'm actually going to play really well to avoid a vulnerability being a problem. It has done in the past, so I know I'm taking a risk there. Anyone that has watched the previous episodes, you'll know that I basically made a decision to only use more enemies when it came to Hazard 5 Plus features, but I don't think it's valid here, but I still feel like I need a bit of a difficulty boost. Anyway, I could explain how this works, but I'm not going to. I know condensed plasma is kind of weird, but what this means is that it actually, condensed plasma combined plasma trail means it does actually one-shot guards, unlike normal breach cutter, which usually struggles with that quite a bit. I actually think taking damage on the breach cutter is actually a very valid pick, as long as you're willing to not use it against base grunts, against which it will be extremely overkill. Yes, basically, yes. I think we should just jump into this mission I've got lined up. And that being said, I'll see you down there. All right, here we are. Hold on, is this glacial strata? I literally didn't pay attention to what biome this is when I started. And I just realised it is a deep scan. I mean, there will be enemies at the start of the mission. Hi. I'm going to proximity mine these idiots. Hold on. Work. Shockers are just the worst things in the game. Okay, let's get the turrets down. Breach cutter ammo have I used already? Not. That's fine. Suppose it's fine. I guess I should talk about why I don't like Eraser, but I guess I've already explained it. The reason I don't like it is it's just not that great because base smart rifle isn't very good, which is a shame, really. And I think, you know, I'm a big believer that cleans shouldn't be inherently overlooked. I think some of the best overclocks in the game are cleans, and I'm not just talking about stuff like special powder either. But this is one of the ones that definitely makes a case for, if you would say doing an overclock tier list, this is the kind of overclock that makes a case for just having a clean category and just dumping it in there. You know, I still don't approve of that, and I don't think that's something that we'll probably never do in any like overclock tier list scenario. But I understand it when I look at overclocks like this. You know, we saw our sort of grunt clearing abilities are pretty much average and nothing. I just remembered they've got player vulnerability on, so I should keep that in mind. But our ammo's already dipping below 200. It's just not that impressive. I think the smart rifle, it takes I guess a lot of work to make it like ammo efficient. It's usually just very, very consuming. You have to be very careful with how you build it. Make something that isn't an ammo hog, basically. Anyway, I do think the breach cutter here is particularly good against Praetorians and things like that. Like normally a base breach cutter, obviously things like Inferno and Return to Center and Spinning Death can do this quite well. Even high voltage crossover, but when it comes to base breach cutter, which is mainly just this overclock, taking the damage actually helps against Praetorians a lot, and I don't think you use an unreasonable. I don't think 2 shots is an unreasonable amount when you have 21 in total, especially given, unlike something like Hyperpropellant, where it's roughly the same ammo use, like proportionally, because it's got roughly double hyper pops to ammo. Unlike hyper pop, you can hit, you know, an infinite amount of enemies within the projectile's like lifetime. You know, there could be up to like a dozen Praetorians in there, and they would all die from those 2 shots. So, which is just like a really basic observation about how like insane the breach cutter is when you think about it. I mean, it used to be so overpowered because it used to have like double the width it has at the moment. That was a while ago though. I imagine that most players at this point didn't experience that. Time when the breach cutter was the king. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with my secondary and my grenade, I'm kind of evoking a time that's long past basically, where certain things were extremely powerful. Like proximity mines and the breach cutter used to be absolute kings, and I still think that they're good, and I think the breach cutter is still like a very strong weapon, but things have definitely changed. Engineering is a much more balanced class than it used to be, I think. Main exception being the smart rifle and the PGL, which I think are both on the whole have more underpowered builds than they should. Anyway, I think enough rambling. You probably want to see me kill something. That's quick. Got a nest of grunt swarm, so I'm going to basically set up a kill box, I think. So they're going to hopefully come through here. If they get through, it's on this side, they will get shredded by my turrets. And I could probably put a platform up there too, because this is how repellent additive works. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Okay, cool. Of course, I imagine some of them will come from this side as well. Classic proximity mine stuff. Okay. Alright, now I should probably whip out the smart rifle. and the breach cutter, of course, because there are guards mixed in here, which is a good excuse to use the breach cutter. Okay. Oh, shit. Okay, I think that was pretty much just an okay showing for the smart rifle. We played movement pretty well. We had a kill box here, which actually did a lot of grunts, so you can actually give a lot of credit to that, getting through that so cleanly. But I think this is an okay smart rifle build overall, and that's, you know, the problem with that is it's kind of not good enough, is it? You kind of want something exceptional. Which might be kind of a greedy outlook, but who wants just okay and have better than okay with something like Executioner, or honestly, even in my opinion, Seeker Rounds, because I actually think Seeker Rounds is strong, and it is, objectively. Something I will never stop talking about until it's accepted. I don't even know if it is. I don't know what goes on really in the community anymore. I don't pay attention to the Reddit. I should be, especially now that we've had the most recent On the Horizon stream. Got a lot of really cool looking Rocal footage. We got any dreams crushed that there would be like surprise Deep Rock updates. It's kind of over for Deep Rock for a long time, but you know, Rocal looks pretty great. All good on that front. But I really don't know what people are thinking or saying about it, to be honest, and much like I don't really know what the current meta is for Deep Rock. It has even really shifted, because it doesn't shift too often. And there haven't really been any particular dynamic changes either that would cause a shift. So, I don't know. Anyway, I guess we could do quick takeaways. You saw that it's pretty good at clearing up squishy targets because we had a good amount of grunts. And that goes for both weapons too. You know, if there was a guard involved, you'd even just excess of slashes. They whipped out the breach cutter. Which means the smart rifle, it's not going to be handling groups of enemies. It's not going to be handling entire swarms efficiently. You know, you've got to take some care to basically rely on it for killing. Like, you can't really rely on it for handling just any kind of like group scenario where there's like more than one enemy. You're probably going to have to mix it up a little. The smart rifle is really not a crutch in this build. It rarely is, but I would say particularly in this build, it's not something to rely on. You can see we're already down to like basically our last magazine. Anyway, depending on what's on this in this room, I might just end up doing some missions. Oh shit. Okay. I think what I'm gonna have to do, probably, don't resupply here, random place. Let's deal with that scale bramble actually. The scale brambles, I mean, not a bad target for a smart rifle, especially this one, where it's quite easy for us to get like quite a few locks on multiple different targets. Let's see if we can do something like that. And luckily, because this build uses so much ammo, I can already justify taking a resupply.
Getting more ammo.
Something that we don't really 100% know how it's going to work in Rocal. Resupplying those. We know there are ammo boxes that you can basically take instead of a weapon. When you get offered a new weapon, I know other ways to get them, I think, too. But yeah, it's not something that was super clear. Is this going to work? It did. I like that. That's actually... that's real smart rifle stuff, I feel like. That's the kind of thing it was designed for. is there another module? It's just this one, right? Yeah. Anyway, Paulstone could actually be a pretty good test, and I say we're in the position to do it, aside from that Praetorian, who Bosco has done really well against already. Anyway.
Platforms placed. Armed and ready.
Yeah, fuck it, let's do this Causestone. I don't know how really to set up the kill bot. Yeah, so probably something like this.
Don't get too now.
Probably gonna be using the smart rifle mainly for the Causestone itself. I mean, core spawn's something that we saw a lot of during that stream. Those lots of new core spawn enemies for rogue core, not for deep rock, which is not a shame, by the way. I think it's actually very good that these enemies are likely not coming to deep rock. You really don't want to cross over that much. Just everything just starts to meld together. I think rogue core is still, as it stands, is still running the risk of being overly similar to deep rock in terms of like justifying its existence. So I don't think that wants to really, don't really want to have it be any closer to deep rock than it needs to be. Alright, let's smart for some of these ones. Ah. Okay, that was bad because I got blocked by the cargo crate. Can't blame that on the cargo crate, but can't blame that on the smart rifle, I should say. But still annoying, obviously. Maybe we need another line. Vulnerability. Not forgetting about it, but it's hard to keep it into consideration when core spawn kind of just hit you. They kind of just hit you, even if you really should be. Even if you really did like strafe properly, at least in my opinion, strafe properly. Okay. And I guess, I mean, it kind of makes sense because I was on pretty low ammo when I got the first one, but I can already justify getting another resupply. I think I will see you once I've gotten that and we can find some enemies, probably in the next swarm, I'd say. See, that's kind of bored that the smart rifle just can't deal with. You know, I want this one.
Ready to kill some more crates.
Anyway, I'm going to try and do some, not necessarily mid-air, but definitely anti-air proximity mine shenanigans.
Stick around.
It wasn't exactly hard, was it? Really? There we go. That's a good hit. Luckily, actually, Brundles are not something, I mean, first of all, not hitting a weak point at all is pretty devastating, but Brundles are something that aren't too big of a problem because the smart rifle's got, like, good inbuilt armor breaking. People don't realise it's got, I think it's 150%. Obviously, the standard is 100%, but the smart rifle's got 50% more armor breaking than just default. Yeah, I do want to point out the ammo efficiency. Not that I can really blame Eraser too much because it's not inherently its thing, but it is also the only smart rifle overclock that technically gives you more ammo. So I am going to blame it actually. I wish it was actually an ammo. I wish it was an ammo overclock. Though I mean, I don't know why we don't have that really. Also, seeing this proximity mine go off there, you can see how big its actual blast radius is and the particle effects. Okay, it's great. Keep missing things. See, this is the context where actually more enemies would be fine because I think more map terror to look onto would not be a bad thing. Yeah, that's pretty decent. That was roughly a full lock, which I think is actually fairly reasonable for a Brundle. I'm just thinking when it comes to sort of these lower tier enemies, I don't think the smart rifle is a problem, like how many bullets it takes to kill things. But it's also just not really great at distributing the bullets to deal with those groups efficiently. And the smart like targeting software upgrade does not help with that, by the way. It's a really bad and weird upgrade that frankly people shouldn't really be using. But yeah, we saw it handling Macteras like just fairly decently. I mean, there were no tri-jaws during that, but it wouldn't be any different to a normal Mactera spawn, so that's just kind of base smart rifle having actually decent damage, which is why I think the base ammo upgrade is more base ammo buff is more what it needs than a base damage buff, I'd say. Anyway, I'm gonna sort this card crate out, pretty do some mission stuff. I'll do in a jiffy. Alright, so we've got a basic grunt swarm that I'm going to use the smart rifle on only. Except as guards, so no. Oh well. What's that then? Yeah, hopefully we're seeing what is just basically a sort of, while it has obvious pitfalls, like its ammo efficiency is not great, we're seeing what is just a fairly comprehensive, okay way to use a really underwhelming overclock. And I suppose that should be partially my objective when it comes to these more boring overclocks, is to, look, it's going to be difficult for me to show you a way to use them that's interesting, right? Because they're not interesting. It's not really a curse that I have the power to break, but I can still show you ways of using them that you might just really not have bothered to even figure out because you don't feel compelled to use them. So I suppose these kind of videos are really for people who have an interest in getting something out of every overclock in the game, and not just the obvious ones that are like, you know, obviously good or obviously exciting. I think I can think I can provide that service. And for me, even just this breach cutter, which is like uses the clean ammo overclock but also takes damage, for me that is actually interesting. It's not a way that I would normally build that or use that, and that kind of thing is always interesting to me. Okay. Yeah, I'll probably get another resupply for this, so I mean I could go back to the other one, but I'm just gonna stand my ground here, I think. How about that entrance? Close. Yes. Yeah, so that tells you how like decent the smart rifle's damage actually is, because that's a warden weak point, which is generally quite vulnerable. So when you actually are able to hit it, which usually when it comes to smart rifle, it's very hard to hit that weak point specifically. So hit pyro is usually more reliable. You can see it's actually doing pretty respectable damage, to be honest. Ooh. Damn it, I thought that would range of that. Okay. Oh, there you go. And yeah, I mean, that's what's important to point out is very often my builds are centered around like the twofold dynamic. There's always some kind of crossover, but it's usually at a very basic level. One is good at killing individual enemies, one is good at killing groups of enemies. In this case, both kind of blur the line. This is a breach cutter that's definitely good at everything, but being breach cutter, that means that if you do use it for everything, you will run out of ammo because it doesn't have a massive ammo pool. Smart rifle, however, has a pretty sizable ammo pool, but it's just not as good at doing those things. You wind up with a build where you cannot really lean on either weapon, but you especially cannot lean on the smart rifle, and that's kind of just a very common symptom of, I would say, most smart rifle builds. It's very rare that the smart rifle is the weapon you're leaning on, where I think there are plenty of builds where you can lean on the stubby and the warthog, So I don't think it's a like necessarily an excusable trait. I think it's very hard to make a build where my rifle is truly reliable. That's because it's so bad at being destructive. You know, it has no stun. It's very difficult to get a fear effect from it, or very difficult to justify because the options in tier 5, the fear option is the worst one by far. So it's very hard to justify it, but it still kind of affects it. Where I still wish you had a way of disrupting like enemies that are attacking you. That's something you have to lean in your secondary for. But when it comes to something like, I don't know, the shard diffractor, which is another thing where it's like there's really only one way to achieve like proper enemy disruption, which is Plastic Catalyst. It's kind of difficult. You want having a build that is very much so just firepower, like nothing but firepower, but not like super, it's not actually that great at killing things either. That's a lot of what smart rifle builds come out being. It's just pure firepower, but not actually that good firepower. I think Eraser is like the smart rifles 2 cleans are like sort of the true emblems of that. And also bitter gem, it's kind of cool. Don't see those too often. Is the crystal inside the bitter gem? Is it over here? Anyway, which is why I'm probably going to get to elevator. I think that's when I'm next going to see you. So, is it me, or does Bosco have the energy of the Castle Crasher's pet? Alright, well, we're moving. I'm not actually sure how I'm going to use proximity mines during this. I think I have an idea, though. Something like this. I might just use them all right at the start. Except one. See how that goes. An oppressor. Now that's just going to soak up the proximity mine. No good. No avail. Shale. Was that the name of the golem from Dragon Age Origins? I think it was. Shale. Yes. It's pretty cool. Hey, don't lock onto the oppressor, please. Oppressors. One of the reasons why Seeker Rounds is good. I think it's probably time to be a bit aggressive. Smart rifle. And the breach rifle. I can tell that proximity mine was actually surprisingly well placed. I forgot to actually make a video of that insane robot attack from last week. Probably won't at this point, to be honest, but it was still, that was weird. Cool. I do kind of miss getting Deep Rock. It's insane that we'll get a season 6 of Dawn when I think about it. Which kind of just tells me something about the way they're sort of approaching Deep Rock now. It's like, when they come back to it, given how rare it is, I mean, it's going to be a big deal. They'll essentially be making, you know, if you look at Season 5, I think Season 6 is going to be the same, if not even bigger. And what that tells me about the approach is it's basically make like a DLC-sized update every time you make an update, but price tag is not on the update. It's on the cosmetic DLC instead, which is just such a beautiful thing. And that won't change because there's no way after like however long it's going to be. You know, it's going to be almost 2 years between. I think it will be less than 2 years, but it will be almost 2 years between season 5 and 6. Which is just really you know, it's fine for a lot of reasons, but just on face value, it's like pretty gross feeling. If you're like a pure deep rock head as well, you can't think about anything else, which I am not, surprisingly. But the fact is the price tags on the DLC, the cosmetic DLC, and not the update itself, and that's something they won't change, even though like it's arguably justifiable, but they couldn't get away with it, and I think they know that. Unless they convert, you know, actually convert their plans to Deep Rock to being like, oh, the game is actually sunset, technically. There's no more updates, but there will be content DLCs, you know, in the future. But then again, I think they actually genuinely, with the way the player base works and how unified they want people to be, it's actually less profitable and certainly less, I guess, socially profitable, as far as like reputation and things like that goes, to like force people to pay for new content. They actually won't benefit them. I mean, they know that. I think they really do thrive off like, we're just going to make just enough money by being good people. And I will never, as long as I can see that that's what they're doing, I would find it hard to truly fault Ghost Ship's approach to things. Okay. Focus on the game. Oh, what's the drop we're doing down there? I really want to play Skyrim. I play that not particularly good game that I adore. Anyway, so far I think we've seen was actually a pretty comprehensive build. I think the ammo efficiency is still questionable, and the general killing power in like isolated scenarios is still questionable, but we've gone by just fine, even with like player vulnerability turned up a notch. So I'm actually pretty happy with how this has gone so far. I do think this is actually a really good breach cutter. You know, as long as you're willing to not use it against just grunts, or willing to like wait for it to be a tankier enemies or at the very least guards, I think you'll get a lot of really like satisfying use out of this breach cutter. And you got a smart rifle that's just pretty okay at just clearing up random bullshit basically that you can't be bothered to aim at. I think it actually works fairly well. I still think it's, you know, it's a mid overclock in a sense, but this still proves my point that no overclock is truly pointless. I guess I'll have to sort of potentially eat my words or find out a new truth when I come to Reatomizer, which is an overclock that I do think is genuinely useless. Until such a time though, Eraser could be a lot worse, and we get to sort of experience another moment of either reinforcement or disprovement, that was a word, the next build, which is actually pretty, you know, I would say substantially different from this one. Yeah, that went pretty well. I will decide what our next mission shall be before I explain the second build. And I mean, I kind of made it clear from the beginning, but the second build is my preferred one. The truth is, I don't love either of them. You know, it's like, they're not my children. They're just builds. And we're not doing critical weakness. That's stupid. So how do I choose a mission for this? Okay. I don't think Lithophage is not. Lithophage is not the way to go for this. I guess I need something. No, actually, there's actually a reason. There's actually a very good reason why I'm not going to do that. What we're actually going to do is, I think, just a base salvage op. I think base salvage op is harder than a lot of other base missions, like a mine expedition or something else. And I would do elimination if we didn't have a fire element to the build, literally. So anyway, build number dos is very much so focused on, like I explained earlier, it's focused on the hipfire aspect, and what that means is we want to basically take as much advantage of electrochemical rounds as possible by inflicting whenever we can, inflicting both fire and electricity. So the general flow of using this weapon is quickly gathering 3 locks. We've got shutter speed sensor and electric generator mod for this. Quickly gathering 3 locks to shoot and then electrocute an enemy. And then we use the PGL to set them on fire. It would usually be PGL first, actually. PGL first, and then we switch to smart rifle to use for the rest of the kill. So we'd then electrocute them and then hip fire. Very often you'll see me mixing the two, basically just not actually hip firing, but it's still kind of built around the best way to use hip fire on the smart rifle, even if I still end up using lock on in a lot of cases where I am implying I would be using hip fire. Anyway, damage in tier 1 and macro lens, precise, high damage per shot, all good stuff. Electrochemical rounds you already understand. So yeah, it's used for HVT killing and single target, like tanky target killing as well, when we have the right combination of status effects. Very rarely used for basic grunts and swarmers. Swarms especially we do like to avoid. PGL here is actually in a very weird spot where it's also a HVT killer, because RG250 with Spiker Grenade is really good at killing sort of basic high priority targets with low HP. Red Spitters, Atta Spitters, Tri-Jaws, they're the kind of thing that PGL is actually very good against as long as we're using Spiker Grenade. And it's also going to be used to set enemies on fire, even if it's not going to be dealing a lot of damage to them. So Praetorian, for example, we need 2 grenades to do that, and it's actually no way to build it otherwise, which is why I feel fully justified in using RG250, given that we're very often going to be using 2 grenades just to set Praetorians on fire. So I do not feel bad about having 21 grenades that can kill big groups of grunts by themselves. Which is why we're going ammo, fire, but radius in tier 4 just to help a little bit with the radius. In an ideal world, I would want to be using this as well, but we do need the PGL for setting things on fire, which is why the Plasma Burster is actually important. Plasma Burster provides a lot of disruptive ability. Sometimes we do just use it to turn a Praetorian around when I don't want to use the PGL on a Praetorian, but it's also just used to obliterate dense groups of enemies, where the PGL might not be the best pick for that in certain scenarios. The Plasma Burster is an unbiased way to just clear hordes. So yeah, it comes with being very punchy, very aggressive, but honestly, I would say overall a bit more efficient and satisfying because it uses actual direct combos than the other build. I definitely prefer it, and hopefully I do not eat my words, and hopefully this mission goes well. All that being said, I think it's high time that I simply get down into the caves. Let's go. I actually made a weird change before I entered the mission. I actually switched to unseasoned in the season selection. I don't really know why. Probably not how I actually want to do things, because I mean, it's not like I care about the performance passes. I've completed them all, but I do, because I'm just very ape brain thing, but I do kind of like having that extra number that goes up every time I do something. Which is why maybe I will, once I'm done with this, I'll actually go to season 1 to start enacting my weird sort of pseudo milestone of getting every performance pass to level 500, which is actually would be a total of 2,500 performance pass levels. Anyway, this build is kind of weird because it's very similar to the previous one in terms of how much we use the weapons, because we're not really leaning on the smart rifle again. It's really just for like sort of tanky targets and HVTs when they're sort of the appropriate thing to take down. And the thing that makes that okay is the fact that we just have so many explosives in our pocket. This is absolutely a PGL board, and then we use a little bit of smart rifle to take out guard, because that's the thing that kind of resists us. Okay, that was a really, really greedy showcase of how you're meant to use the build. I'll acknowledge that I should have not have done it that way, but I saw the goo bomber. Obviously, in a better scenario, I would have just taken a bit more time to clear out the smaller enemies first. But I had an opportunity there to show you how the build works at its best, which is give an enemy like the goo bomber, where you really want to hit that weak point to get the actual good damage out of it. And what that entails is actually hip firing, which makes you more likely to hit the weak point. So I set it on fire, which unfortunately did destroy one of the weak points. Then I electrocuted it with the smart rifle, and then I lay into its other weak point by hip firing. Some things where that's not as good as you just saw is actually Praetorian, where they're kind of hard to take down quickly in that sense anyway, so you actually get more damage output by just using the locker mechanic because it's so much easier to hit the weak point. This is where it differs with things like goo bombers and wardens and even spitballers arguably, where the reason why hip priming results in better damage is because you're so much more reliably hitting the weak point, which just amplifies all of the already present damage bonuses that we have. But I do apologise for making it very, very like obviously risky and like unnecessarily risky move just for the case of basically for the Vine. Essentially, I did it. You'd like to put it that way. Anyway, let's move on to, I guess, I'll do some mission stuff. I assume there will be lots of enemies in the main room. I am hoping for spitballers because they feel really good to kill this build. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to cut a little bit. One of those weird salvage op layouts that I haven't seen in a while, where you actually start with the drop pod room. You know, here's RJ250 just doing RJ250 things. Oh shit. Oh, what could that happen? I guess this is an opportunity for me to override that irresponsible death. So basically, I'm just going to load into that same mission again, I suppose, and I'll probably skip past some beginning stuff. You guys' sake, if I'm just going to load into the game. Okay, I don't know what that was about. I am being assailed by the Horde. Also, I guess you just saw that I had actually switched to Season 1 after the crash. Why? Well, I guess I'm just doing that thing that I said I was going to do. I'm just going to start playing on these seasons until they get to level 500. You needed to see what you just saw, because that was just a PGL showcase. Which is why I really want to get enemies like Spitballer, so you can see how good this combo can actually be. Obviously, you can achieve what this is doing very easily through other means. You can achieve this through Inferno, which I think would actually be the best option. Also achieve it through a lot of Shard Diffractor builds. I would say it should be a Shard Diffractor AoE build, but as long as you're taking the extra direct heat, you should be fine. So Volatile Impact mixture, a Volatile Impact Reactor actually should be a really great accompaniment for this. I do think there are things about the PGL that work very well though. First of all, it's got really good snappy HVT killing, like I mentioned, where one shot for things like Acid Spitters and Trijors and stuff like that. And it's also got very good sort of terrain flexibility. I think when it comes to it's going to take Spitballer shots, unfortunately. More than one apparently, so we can back off. Especially because of the Stalker somewhere. Well, okay, that was kind of me getting greedy like with the Goo Bomber earlier, but the difference is actually I didn't see Spitballer at all. Please forgive. Oh, is there another breeder as well? 2 breeders. Oh shit. Okay. Well done, Bosco. I just killed the Spitballer. Not that I wanted that necessarily. I wouldn't have minded killing it myself. Okay, Sting Tails are bad. Trigger. Okay. Fuck! I thought about actually using RG250 for the reason that you meant to use RG250, but... Well... Also, Sting Tails are something that actually are pretty good against anyway. Okay, I need to play this smart. I need to stop being a fucking mob. Right. Turret here, and all the destructors. Yeah, that breeder as well. I'm gonna take that down. From here. dead.
this, mama.
Hit all here. Actually, hold on a minute. I guess I must have destroyed its shot, actually. The projectile. I didn't feel like I did. It hit me, but I guess I did. Okay. But that stalker's still out there somewhere. Yeah, hopefully you can forgive that another mishap, but you can see how good this thing is at just clearing, like, rooms. If you're willing to go about it in a very procedural manner, like one thing at a time, we can kind of just take them down, like, very, very efficiently. So I would like to use more plasma burst. I can now. Oh, okay. I'll pull them out. Okay, I'm being very, very liberal with my ammo usage here. In a way that I am not. That's because I really don't want to die. Piece of shit. But yeah, something I haven't really been able to show that this is actually pretty good against Stingtails, and that is entirely owed to the smart rifle's built-in armor breaking, like I mentioned earlier. It's actually pretty good against Stingtails. I was actually thinking of Brundles because that was the example earlier of armor breaking. Another one. Not so tough, are you? Woo! Was that the stalker? Was that two stalkers? Okay, it was two stalkers. Now the reason why that happened is because I literally assumed there was only one. I thought I had killed one of them. Two stalkers, it makes sense why they were able to do that to me, but I thought it was one. Basically, not the build's fault, my fault. Those two things are not. I am not the build. I am merely the dwarf using them. Oh, I'm just going to clear this cave, I think. Actually, I don't know where the other... I guess the other... Oh, I'm going to clear this cave of stuff. They are coming. Wait, are they? Are they coming? Are the hordes of hell in their way? Yes, they are. Oh. Wasn't the biggest group of enemies.
One sentry gun ready to be built. Rock and roll. Yeah.
And there it goes. Oh shit. Man. Anyway, hopefully so far from this one you've seen a build that essentially has no weaknesses as long as you're willing to be quite aggressive. You know, just a very strong, like, punchy, single target damage for both tanky enemies and HVTs, and a very just large amount of disruptive AoE damage from both our grenade launcher and our grenades. Both disrupt enemies and kill enemies very efficiently, so it's a mixture of crowd control and crowd clearing from both weapons. So we're very strong in that department. As we are against single targets. Even, you know, the only thing that sort of comes to mind is tiny enemies and, like, small groups of grunts, but honestly, PGL has so much ammo in this build that that's another thing that it's for, which is why the Plasma Bursters are important as being for those really big groups of enemies, because RT the PGL is for small groups of enemies and for setting up single targets to be on fire. And then obviously the smart rifles for killing HVTs and for taking out those afflicted tanky enemies. So yeah, the grenades are actually very important in this build because I think they represent the most condensed and powerful AoE element of it, really. So take my word for it, Blast Bursters. I think Blast Bursters, and this is only because this is actually a very holistic thing. So I am taking into account the overpoweredness of the other option as a detracting factor. I think the Blast Bursters are the best engineered grenade, and I think if you know, if we're going off pure strength, then it would be okay. That was great. See, that's one of the reasons why they're not the best, because they can sometimes hit you and nothing else. But if we're going off pure strength, it would obviously be the Shredder grenade, the Shredder Swarm. But
Bosco, you are the best.
my apologies. I'm just not on it. Dude. Stop it. Just stop. Okay. I can do it. I'll be fine. But look, I actually do just have to lock in.
The mules are heading back. Follow them and let's get the drop pod fixed. Remember, you can always deposit on the side of the drop pod.
Huh? I've got the nitro for a second resupply. I'm gonna resupply. Get this thing started.
All mules secured. Now to get the pod working. First, establishing a proper connection between the pod and the space rig. Set up the uplink.
Keep in mind, in all these scenarios where I died, I'll probably just use RJ250 to get you out of it. You know, I don't think I've ever taken RJ250 for purely the rocket jumping aspect, except from the very first time I ever used it. And, you know, obviously that was not representative of any of the times I used it afterward. So I just don't think about it at all. It's just not a consideration for me. And Oppressor. Now, an Oppressor is a tricky one because you can still set them on fire with just 2 grenades, but they extinguish themselves so quickly, or rather, you know, cool down so quickly. But the beautiful thing about elemental damage bonuses is that they are dealt partially in the form of the element that they're getting the bonus from. Meaning that when we actually hit that on fire Oppressor with Smart Rifle, some of the bonus damage that we are dealing is actually heat. I think it's with heat and fire. Either way, what that does is actually help keep the Oppressor on fire for longer. So that's why Oppressors actually aren't an issue where you actually might expect them to be an issue. Anyway, there's our built-in arm braking, working very well against Stingtails. Stingtails, unfortunately, cannot be one shot set on fire, which I really wish they were. Definitely look like they should be able to be, but they don't, and that's something I just have to deal with. But it's weird seeing season 1 here.
Not even a spin doctor can fix you now.
I guess actually, you know, tiny enemies are full turrets as well. As long as you're in a position where you actually are holding your location, or you're willing to retreat a bit to find a position to set up a turret. Which you should be if you're a good engineer. Be willing to take positioning into account in the scenario.
Please get back into the triangulation zone. You risk completely losing your signal.
I do want to say though, about this build specifically, this is one that both Seeker Rounds and Smart Trigger can do better. I think, honestly, especially secret rounds is very fitting of the sort of punchy single target style build, the smart rifle, especially when it comes to things like shellbacks, which are completely covered in armor. It's not a problem for secret rounds. So I still don't understand the logistics behind electrocuting shellbacks, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I know shellbacks are weird with status effects because obviously you can like freeze them, but they don't actually get frozen, but they still take, you know, triple damage. Weird stuff.
Fuel cells arrived.
You mean?
Connect them to the drop pod by dragging out the charge cable.
I thought that cropper there was a web spitter. Oh, what a fool I've been. Anyway, do I want to?
Fuel cells connected. Now you just need to press
Yeah, I
the
do
fuel
actually.
cells and the charge sequence will
Build
begin.
something up a bit. Okay, I'll do. Let's get started. Not if I get hit by a pressure wave. Let me deal with a very comprehensive thing. Like this. There you go. That's one way to do it. Well, I would like to use a bit more smart rifle ammo before we start. So I can resupply, but not like any enemies in the shop now. You know, for another like 3 minutes or so to pressure wave, so might as well get started. Right. Just realised I haven't set up my turrets. Oh dear.
One sentry gun ready to be built. Armed and ready.
Okay. 1, a 2, a 1, a 2, a 3, 4. If only we had that many turrets.
Fuel cells charging. Stay close to keep them operational.
Okay.
We're expecting an increase in hostiles.
Let's go. Time is up. My time is now.
Fuel cells at 50%.
Right, one grunt basically for that. Oh great! Oh look, we got completely bare far barnacles. I think this might actually be the most nostalgic Deep Rock song for me. And it is because this is the first time I like basically noticed stuff, like how good the music was in this game. Hearing this track.
Hey, Stingtail, if you need a new one, maybe visit the retail store.
Actually, I'm going to hold out until it's over before I get any health.
It's past your expiration.
Should be more than fine.
Fuel cells fully charged.
Okay,
Drop
good.
pod engine powering up.
We're cool.
Overground. We're almost ready to pull you and the goods out.
We're Gucci.
Platform's like never felt better.
No compressor. How's it going, sir? Would you like to die?
Onboard mainframe routing.
And that really good proof, by the way, of my what I said, like the elemental stuff, how it works, because that oppressor did not like what's actually the word? Is it extinguish? I guess it didn't it didn't extinguish itself at all. Went on fire. It just kept it on fire. Look at that. didn't need to do that. Myself in danger, like, need to. Warmers are on me. Won't leave. Got a little, I mean, very little bit of health.
Pod thrusters calibrated.
And no extra lives. But I can do it.
Powered up and ready to leave. It's time to bring it all home.
Right, let's go. Okay, so that was a racer, which is an overclock that is definitely a small upgrade to base smart rifle. Unfortunately, it is still basically analogous to base smart rifle. Therefore, it's just not very impressive. There are still ways to build it that take advantage of the smart rifle's good attributes, which are decent base bullet damage per bullet, and among other things, or just flexibility of having a lock-on weapon. But for me, it's still relatively unimpressive overclock. It's the kind of one where I still won't judge you if you want to use it, but it's the kind of thing where if it's your favourite, I might start to question your sanity, because it's just very uninteresting and very non-conducive to a uniquely effective build. I think there are plenty of cleans that do actually lend themselves to something that is actually unique in its effectiveness and what it does. I can think of a lot of them actually, like efficiency tweaks for the shard diffractor. Others. Apologies for being not too on it. Ultramagnetic coils. That's probably the best clean in the entire game. So there's that. But yeah, at the same time, it does still take advantage of the smart rifle's base strengths, and therefore also suffers from its base weaknesses. But it's still a very okay clean. The main problems it has are the smart rifle's problems, and that's always going to be the case with a clean. Problem is just that the smart rifle has some very good options when it comes to its balanced tables. So I would say think about those a little bit more. Don't focus too much on a razor. It's not something that I recommend. Frankly, all the builds that you saw today, I think the first one you could easily exchange that for smart trigger, and this one you could easily just change out for seeker rounds. In fact, I would actually probably recommend that you do that, but it's basically, if this is the only overclock you've got, then maybe you'll find this helpful. So yeah, that was it. If you enjoyed this episode of Overclock Showcase, then please make sure to hit that like. Is that what I say? Like and subscribe. Yeah, like and subscribe. And if you want to see more videos like this and you want to stay on top of everything, do Deep Rock and Road Core, then also hit the bell. But now, still here, we get to do the fun part, where I get to find out what my next overclock is going to be. And the reason why this is fun is because we are finally doing the first round of secondaries. Starting with the Bulldog. Who's going to be the template? Probably you. Or just, well, see what happens. There's a bit of a ghost disconnect, actually. Yeah, it's actually fine power-wise. Probably going to be this idiot. So basically, how's this going to work? Well, you've probably seen this before, but we use the Wheel of Fortune. So we number the overclocks 1 through to how many there are. In this case, from left to right as well. So in this case, we've got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And I will turn my attention now to the Wheel of Fortune. I will find out what overclock we're going to get. And here it is. So now we get to spin the wheel, and fate will be either our friend or foe. Not one. I think a part of my soul just got extinguished. Guys. Fucking chain hit. Oh my god. No. Why? Why have you done this? Ah. Okay. Chain hit, I guess. We'll see how that goes next time. Overclock Showcase. For the first secondary overclock case. You know what? Okay, let's end it a bit cheerier than that. What's the thing? Get a drink. So look at the nice like season 1. Actually, if you were to switch to season 1 or season 2, in season selection, you'd actually your space rig will look like this, and this is not how it looked during season 1 or season 2. It actually added a bunch of stuff. I assume you can pick this up, or you can kick it, I guess. My favourite one probably being the Prospector hanging from the ceiling here. A couple of shredders dotted about. What even is that? What is that? Oh, it's part of an appendage. The caretaker. No, here. Actually, really cool. They put random stuff everywhere. I mean, there's a sniper turret. Patrol bot sitting there. Oh my god, there's actually way more than I realised. Even here. Wow. And if you actually go upstairs, there's also a rival tech hurricane down there. And it also replaces all the weapons here with like sort of rival tech versions. Very nice touch. Except that's a waster smart rifle. Builder's choice Drac, which doesn't make any sense actually. As well as a mil spec GK2. Oh, we're in a memorial hall. I don't think they actually do anything to the memorial hall for the. But I know there's some stuff up here. Kind of cool. Mainly this taxi. There he is. That man. Tapping away. Weird sort of network of hacking pod nodes. Well. Also, there's the Prospector hanging from the ceiling. Like it deserves. It actually looks a lot smaller here. Yeah, I mean, that's that. Whatever. Bye.